Hello and welcome to the second episode of It Came From Down Under. This podcast follows me, Blake, and my good mate Leon. My good mate,
Blake.
me, Blake. No, like me is Blake, not me and Blake. You know?
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Right.
and my good mate Leon. Introducing ourselves and each other to new pieces of Australian media. Typically, we'll probably be doing one album and one movie a week because that's our interest. And yeah, this week we're covering the 1970 cult classic Wake in Fright. And you decided to cover...
I decided to cover Tame Impala's sophomore album, Lonerism, from 2012.
Alright, the man.
New to the Yabba?
Yes.
Staying long?
No, just tonight.
Oh, that's hard luck. Want to see a bit more of the Yabba than that.
Progress, a vanity spawned by fear. A vanity spawned by fear.
In Wake in Fright, the 1971 Australian classic, John Grant is a teacher who's stuck in a bond with the Australian Education Department, where basically how it worked back then was you had to pay money to get out of the bond, and the bond basically meant that they could send you to work at any school you wanted. So in his case, he was forced to work in a tiny little school in the middle of Central Australia. What was the town called again? Tabunda?
Tabunda.
Yeah, Tabunda, which you just looked up was it's not a real place.
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay, yeah, so it's not a real place. The whole town seems to just be the schoolhouse and the bar. So I respect that.
That's all that we see. Yeah.
That's all that we see, but like we get, like the film does start with like that 360-degree shot, which is pretty. It was pretty well done, I feel.
Yeah, that's a really...
Like it really captures the vibe of just how shit of a place it is to be. Yeah, so he's on his way to Sydney for his 6-week holiday, and along the way he stops at the town of Gubbin. Oh,
It was Bunyan Yabba.
Bundin Yabba, that's
But
it.
the
Yabba.
locals refer to it as the Yabba.
The Yabba, which is is that a real place?
Actually, I'll double check that.
Yeah, double check that real
Bundin
quick. I feel like it's not.
No. When you look up Bunyan Yabba, all that comes up is the movie.
Okay, all right. So he goes to a fictional town, and he sort of gets caught up in this very strange gambling ritual of the townspeople, where he goes from having around $200 to having nearly $1,000, so he can get out of his bond and be a free man and go live in Sydney.
With his girlfriend, yeah.
Yeah, well, are they together anymore?
That's something we can discuss.
It is, or not. I don't know.
Just see where the discussion leads.
It's probably the least interesting part of the movie.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
And basically he loses all his money and goes on like a slow. Actually, no, it's pretty. I wouldn't say slow or fast. It's like weirdly paced, like his descent into like just.
Yeah.
He's just descent. It's just a descent. Like that's all it is really. That's all you can describe it. And like I can't really say much more without giving it away. Because it is a really good movie. But so did you enjoy it?
Oh yes, I did indeed. Like I honestly haven't heard about this film prior to you mentioning or like kind of brainstorming movies to do for this podcast. Though like I mean, reading in the backstory, it's interesting how apparently like it was known as being like Australia's great lost film.
Yeah.
Because the masters like are missing, so they couldn't actually use any good quality was it like sort of film or like masters to do like a DVD release or anything like that until a few years ago when it got re-released. So I mean I guess that contributes to why I didn't hear about this film at all, but like it's quite surprising because like I feel like this definitely has a lot of things about it that I see as being one of these like great all-time classic films. It's just I mean, because I basically just loved this sort of just like this sort of portrayal of this character and seeing his gradual descent and kind of as a viewer really kind of analyzing the various aspects that lead to it and all the influence and kind of exploring this these themes of isolation in regards to towns and stuff. Like, for example, like, out in this area, the whole film's basically set in where it's the two
Yaba.
towns of Yaba and, well, majority Yaba, and at the start, what was it, Tabunda. It's just you see these communities, and it's like completely isolated from kind of other places, and I guess the movie makes an interesting like portrayal of the effect, because you can tell that John Grant, the main character, is not exactly one that's used to this sort of environment.
Like, yeah, he doesn't. He the only time he seems to be happy in the whole movie, actually the first time where he seems proper happy, if I'm remembering correctly, is probably when he first kills the kangaroo.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking about it,
I mean, I think like he was pretty ecstatic when he made all those winnings at with that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what. Sorry, that's actually a better example. Yeah, he's because up to the first like half hour of the movie, he's very stone faced the whole time. Like, and he has like this sort of this very British sort of like manners about him, where he's like very not just slyly, but like. He's throwing shots. He's throwing shades at the town folk. He's talking to the sheriff and saying that suicide seems like a great way to get out of this town.
Yeah, I just like at the start, I'm like, mate, just like you're coming into this town, just like I don't know, show a bit of respect, mate.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just like because but yeah, from that start on, because he has this really sort of kind of arrogant, like I'm better than all of you because. What are all you doing here in this small town? Yeah,
I don't think... Because I've seen this film twice now. The first time was about a year ago. The second time was, watching this podcast. I don't think like they were trying to make him a likable character.
No.
I think they were very obviously trying to make him, like, make the audience kind of dislike him.
Yeah, I mean, I think an interesting thing, actually, I probably would like to point out, is something that I've kind of noticed is that it is pretty apparent that the way they've written this, they don't want you to completely. I mean, of course, there are moments where you sympathize with John, but like but I feel like at the start I sympathize more with these town folks because it all kind of had this portrayal of being as like sort of though like they kind of look a bit ignorant and But they're portrayed as being these kind of nice, friendly people who welcome anyone into the town.
Yeah.
Whereas,
like in one of my classes, the professor kind of said something about this film, how she felt like the film kind of seemed to hate the townspeople. When I didn't really get that, I felt like it kind of felt pity for them because like in the way that like in the doctor character played by Donald Pleasance, he says something about how discontent is the luxury of the well-to-do, which I really like that quote. Like, just because, I don't know, it's very apparent that, like, the only difference between John and the townsfolk is that he hasn't accepted where he is yet.
Yes.
Because as the film goes on, he becomes more and more like them. He gets into the fights. He goes and kills a kangaroo. He tries to sleep with Jeanette, as everyone else in the town has. It's showing that anyone could succumb to these, like, to the pressures of being in this sort of environment. The pressures. I feel like these things to the characters are more of just a coping mechanism. Like as the poster says, it says Outback, have a drink, mate, have a fight, mate, have a taste of dust and sweat, mate. There's nothing else out here. That's what the poster says. So like,
I
feel like that pretty like captures the vibe of it. Like, there's just nothing else out here, like, what else are they gonna do?
What else are you gonna do? Yeah. And I feel like rather than because I don't think I agree with what your lecturer teacher said, because I feel like the film portrays these townspeople in a sort of bit of a sympathetic light, especially towards the beginning, where you can see how John is being a really kind of a rude, having a sort of rude attitude towards these people, especially with the sheriff. Like, it was a bit uncomfortable, like those remarks that he just makes, like, that obviously are kind of just poking, well, not poking fun, but just like,
especially when the sheriff's going around and giving him, like free beers and everything, special service.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also, how crazy is it? He goes to that like cafe and he gets like a steak, a big fat steak and 2 eggs and toast and like some
for like
other stuff
$1.
for $1. Like, man, 1971 must have been nice, eh?
Yeah, that must have been very nice. You can't even. Well, you can get a frozen Coke for $1, and that's.
Coke for $1.
And a hamburger.
Oh.
Well, that's $2 then if you want.
Yeah,
both.
that's $2 for the two now.
Ah,
Bro, like, you know, he's staying overnight for $4. Like, you know, these days that'd be like at least 10 times that. I don't know.
bro,
I don't know how
economics
much- I don't know how much
101,
that costs.
inflation, bro.
Honestly,
probably
nah,
like-
but like, oh, that was just sad. Like,
Yeah.
man, for $1, like, I don't know.
That was definitely the highlight of the movie, just being like far.
That was
out.
honestly the
At
highlight
some
of the
point, people could have just bought a steak, chips, and like a
movie.
drink.
Or,
for
like
$1.
2 eggs and
Two
a bunch
eggs,
of bread.
yeah. And he
And a
didn't
coffee,
eat the eggs.
and a coffee, and a coffee.
And a coffee.
Yeah, and he didn't eat the eggs. Oh, how shameful.
I know.
Yeah, but
And
which-
leading to
which
that,
of-
he gives the eggs to the Doc character, which I feel Doc was kind of the highlight of the movie in my
yeah, he's a very interesting character.
yeah for sure, because he's not exactly, well, he is a townsfolk, but the thing is that
He's separated from a town. He said himself
Yeah.
that his education and class has separated him socially.
yeah, because he had some sickness, wasn't it? That like
No, I think it was more so just because like he's actually like because he's educated, so like he's he's a doctor, so like,
oh
they-
right
no-
no.
they won't accept him as one of them.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Maybe to some degree they feel that he's better. Maybe that's what he's implying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Oh no, I meant like as in he had some sort of sickness that stopped him from having acceptance in cities. Like
oh,
large
and
cities
no,
as a
no,
doctor,
he said his
wasn't it?
sickness was alcoholism, which let him
Oh, true.
fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, which let him fit right in Bunton Yabba. In the Yabba.
In the Yabba.
Speaking of alcoholism, would you like a beer, mate?
I mean, it's currently 1:20 p.m, so I feel like I'll pass.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not a big day drinker, like you know.
Yeah, no, this film, like, I don't know, it's very uncomfortable for me because I don't like beer, you know.
Oh, you're not a
Man,
true
like,
Aussie then.
What? Yeah, I'm not Aussie. It just made me feel like I didn't belong, you know. Like, why aren't they drinking apple cider, you know? Yeah, like I don't know if you've seen the Simpsons episode where they come to Australia.
I think I have ages ago. Like,
Okay,
on a
'cause
random
there's a
rerun on
bit where
Fox.
Marge goes to a cafe, and she says, "Can I get a coffee?" And the guy behind the counter goes, "Beer." She goes, "Coffee, beer, COBE." Like, you know, I don't know. That's all I could think about was that episode of The Simpsons. Like literally every single male character in the film drinks a beer.
Yeah, it's
There isn't
true.
a single male character in the whole film. Like even
Wait, let me look through this.
because the only one that doesn't drink a beer is the guy that I can think of is the one that drives him.
Yeah, the truck
gives him the
driver.
lift, like not the
What a
truck driver,
stitch up.
the other guy.
Yeah,
But then even then he goes, "Want a beer?" And then John goes off to calling him inbred and idiot, and he goes, "Oh, screw you then," like
that's right, that dude.
yeah. No, he's a classic. I feel that guy. I felt bad for him. He drove him all the way, and then John didn't even want a beer.
Yeah, it's like I feel like that's just something. Like I mean, even if you really don't want to drink, you could just at least get a water.
No, but then again, him being polite and just having the drinks is what got him into his situation in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Just because he didn't accept where he was. I don't know, man. It's just not.
I don't know. Yeah. Alcohol bad.
Yeah, alcohol bad. But nothing else to do. Did you know that? Sorry, completely change topic here. Whiplash.
No, it's okay.
The scene where they're hunting kangaroos.
Yeah.
Did you see in the credits how at the start of the
How-
credits it has a producer note they actually did kill the kangaroos?
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
are all real kangaroos that they killed. Like all the shots and like all the stabbing shit, that was all real.
Because I didn't really. I mean, it looked realistic, but I kind of assumed oh yeah, this might be just like some other footage that they used.
Yeah, same. Like that's what I thought the first time I watched the movie ages ago. But knowing that information going into on the second viewing, like that scene was really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like when it gets to the credits and I read the producer, I was like, oh. But at the same time, it's that thing of in these areas of like Broken Hill, or I think it was shot in Broken Hill, but there's a lot of these communities where kangaroos are seen as pests. So it's the thing of they wouldn't have committed.
Yeah, 100%.
But seeing it actually in the film, it was pretty
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, because like the first time I saw the movie, I was like, damn, they did pretty good on this. Looks really realistic. And then second time you watch it, you go like, oh, because they actually did kill kangaroos, actually stabbing them in the throats and stuff. Yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah, because I mean, I read somewhere how the hunt lasted like ages, like it lasted like several hours, and like the hunters that they were with, even though like the end title card said that they were professional hunters, apparently they got really drunk and then like and then they just started to like miss and like and then the cinematographers and stuff, they basically lied and said, oh, there's like no more film or whatever, or there's a power failure, just so they could get them to stop.
Jesus.
And the interesting fact is, even though all that happened, the director's a vegetarian.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fun.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, like that whole aspect of the film, it's really weird because the film really slows down for a bit between the gambling scene and that kangaroo hunting scene.
Oh yeah. Because after the kangaroo hunting scene kind of just changes the pace and just goes 0 to 100. Because after that you have the bar scenes.
Yeah, because up to that point the film's pretty slow except for the gambling scene.
Yeah. That's the first moment, I guess, it kind of picks up and something kind of happens. Yeah.
Because then after that he hangs out with Tim Hines, the nice fella whose daughter. And like that part of the film I don't love just because it is very slow. I feel like because I feel they set up a really good pace like in the gambling scene and like the rest of the film. It's just that one Tim Hines scene is like, I guess it's sort of a breather, and like I guess it sort of works for establishing for setting up for the scene where him and Jeanette try to sleep together. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's a really I don't know. Just,
well,
I guess it is meant to be. It is meant to be like uncomfortably slow. You know what? Think about it. Ignore me. I was completely wrong. It's meant to be slow. I'm just thinking about it.
No, but I mean the thing is like it can be. It's like it's meant to be slow, but it doesn't mean that you have to.
Have to enjoy it. Yeah.
Enjoy what it was going for. I mean I feel like wait, so what scene are you talking about specifically? Is it when he returns to his place? Or
yeah, when he goes back to Tim Hines' place and falls asleep, and then the guys are playing cards, and then he's flirting with Jeanette.
Yeah.
Like, because that whole bit goes for, I feel like half an hour, which is like a quarter of the movie when nothing really happens. I get that it's to establish the relationship between him and Jeanette, and that's kind of important for the themes of the movie of trying to escape your situation by giving into vice. But
and I guess that's shown as well how it backfires when he tries to get with Jeanette and he just ends up like
vomiting himself. Yeah. Actually, that brings up that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I don't think that he was still with his girlfriend.
You don't?
Just because when he says to
Jeanette?
when he says not Jeanette, when he talks to Tim Hines, and Tim Hines says I can forward a call to Sydney, and he says I don't have anyone to ask for money.
Oh right, yeah, true.
Because if his girlfriend wasn't in, like I'm sure that she would lend him money,
Yeah, it makes you wonder what he would have like if he did actually end up going to Sydney, like.
Yeah, so I kind of feel there's a bit of subtext there that like their relationship was strained a bit by his having to teach in Central Australia.
Yeah, as it was.
It's Christmas over the film, which I think I find it pretty. I find that's one of like my favorite parts. It's
technically a Christmas movie.
It's technically a Christmas film. In the middle of the Aussie outback, and I love that shot early on in the film where because the very first shot of the film is like that 360-degree pan around the outback shot and there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And it goes to the classroom and everyone just sweating and it shows these primary school age kids, then these high school kids sitting right next to each other, and then you turn around and then you cut to John sitting there, and then next to him is a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I like that. I like that scene a lot.
Like no one's talking, and then as soon as the clock strikes, it's like 3 or something, and everyone just leaves.
Yeah. Also, did you notice that those kids all disappeared straight away? He goes outside and they're all just gone. Where did they go?
They?
Yeah. Watch that first scene again, and just notice how he leaves the classroom a minute after everyone else, and they've all just vanished completely. We just had this shot where we see there's nothing else around for him to be, nowhere else for them to be. And they're all just gone. I think that's the real horror of this film. Where did those kids go?
where did those kids go?
Oh.
Bro.
I don't know. I feel like this film has kind of like a dreamlike, has a very dreamlike feel to it. The way it sort of like transitions, it's kind of like episodic in the way, like, you know, it has him doing one thing and then that's done, and then him doing another thing.
In his
that's
interactions with other people and
yeah,
you know.
like, you know, he has the gambling sequence early on,
Yeah.
and then that never really comes up again. And then he has the scenario with Tim Hines and Jeanette, and then that doesn't really go anywhere. And then he has that whole kangaroo hunting thing, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. But like, you know, like everything feels kind of self-contained to its own moments. It's like him. I felt like it is kind of very dreamlike. The way all these characters, you know, don't seem human. You know, the way that there's especially the way the like montage is used.
Yeah, I really like
especially early
I
on.
was just gonna mention. I really liked how montage was kind of used with the gambling scene, and how like there's this strange imagery that pops up, like the doc with the coins in his eyes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all that.
I think that shot in particular shows up later on when he's off to
Oh
go
yeah, that's right.
head into the doc's house. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go into that last bit just because I feel like it is very
It's a quite a pivotal moment. I don't think that.
yeah. And I'd rather not go into it. I think we can talk about this film without going into that scene because I really want anyone to see it.
Yeah.
I really do want people to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the last few minutes of the film, I think, is definitely one of the best parts, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I do just love the reveal of when he's trying to escape the Yabba.
Yeah.
And,
What a
you know,
stitch up.
He gives
Yeah.
the truck driver his gun, and he says, you know, "I'll give us a lift to the city." Because to him, the city, to him, Bundy Yabba isn't the city. It's just like a pit stop, you know.
Yeah.
But to the truck driver, you know, like the Yabba, like it is the city, you know. Like, it's like the scene when he gets out and you know he sees the town hall, and I don't know, like I love his reaction because he kind of like accepts the humor of the situation.
Yeah.
Like, cause he doesn't go, you know, all over dramatic and start crying. Like he has a laugh to himself.
Yeah.
Like he freaks out, obviously. Then he has a laugh to himself, and he just starts wandering through town with his gun, and no one seems to really care all that much. Like, what was it made 1971? When was the Port
71.
Arthur? What was it?
Wait, what did you say?
It was 1971.
Yeah.
When was the Port Arthur shooting?
Port Arthur shooting. Oh.
Sometime in the 90s.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, pretty sure it was in the 90s.
Yeah, like, so you really couldn't have like anything like that today because obviously Australians don't have guns anymore.
Yeah.
And you know he's just wandering through town, and like a few people stop and stare, but like that's it really. I think they're mostly
very
staring
few.
at how.
Just kind of like casually, just walking.
Yeah, like
down
he's
the
not just
street.
walking down with his gun. Like he looks ready to kill people because you know he kind of is. And he's obviously, you know, very scat. Like in that moment, you know.
Oh, 100%.
He's very scat. And
It was nice the man gave him back the gun though.
that was pretty nice. Like you know, it kind of felt like even the old man was like. The man was like even like in on the joke. Like it feels like everyone was all in on a joke that he wasn't getting. I think that's good way to describe in the movie. I felt like it's a really good next film to watch after last week's Wolf Creek, just because like they're both like really well, like very in similar but different ways capture the horror of the outback.
Yeah, for sure, and in quite different ways and contexts.
Yeah, definitely, because Wolf Creek is more about the unknown, because you know it follows Australian tourists, or like, you know, even the Australian guy is from Sydney. Oh no, he's from Perth. Oh no, from Sydney. I don't know. He's from somewhere from.
He's from like a major city, yeah.
Yeah, and so in Wolf Creek, when they're traveling through, they're discovering everything, and like to them, like you know, going through the outback and seeing you know the big crater, it's all like wondrous to them. Like you know, the prospect of walking for 3 hours is beautiful to the Wolf Creek characters, but to John in Wake and Fright, you know, he's been out there. You know, he's from pretty much these days from the outback.
He's basically forced to be out there.
He's forced to be out there by the government. So and you know like he does nothing but want to leave. And the horror isn't from the place, but from kind of himself and what he does. From you know like what this kind of isolation and desperation does to you, and makes you want to do. I don't know. I feel like this wasn't intentional. I was thinking about last night, but I feel like it works pretty well as a companion piece to Wolf Creek.
To lead on. And by the same token, I feel like it really relates to Since I Left You, my last week's album pick.
Yeah.
No. I mean,
okay.
Big stretch, you know, like
yeah, okay, yeah.
looking for this for your I'm not even gonna get there actually. It's a bit
Yeah,
tough.
trying to get back to your misso.
Trying to get back to your misso that
Yeah.
you may and may not still be with.
You know, and that very
And not getting there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know, it's all a journey. It's all a journey.
It's all a journey. It's all a journey. Yeah, it's a really good film. I'm surprised that you haven't heard of it at all.
Yeah, same.
Like it is like. Wait, hold on. Let me just look this up. Because if you Google like best Australian films, it's like one of the top ones. But then again, like how often are you googling best Australian films?
Yeah, exactly.
Best Australian movies.
And because I mean, it's a cult classic, so it's one of those films that, a cult in terms of like film, cinema circles. So
Yeah, fair enough. Like so, like there's dozens of essays written about it. Like we had to
Yeah.
read about it during my class. Hold up. So look, if you Google best Australian movies, number
Yeah.
one's Mad Max. Number
Okay.
2 is Wolf Creek.
yeah,
Number 3 is The Castle. Then Animal Kingdom, Priscilla, Muriel's Wedding, Crocodile Dundee, Gallipoli, Red Dog, Chopper, Rabbit Proof Friends, Australia, Simpson Delilah, The
See,
Proposition,
this is why I haven't heard of it.
The Dish, The Dressmaker, Picnic at Hanging Rock, Snowtown, Lantana, and then Waking Fright. Okay, that's a bit
Wow.
I don't like that. I don't like how low it is. Shame on you, Google. Shame on you.
on you.
And then we got after that was Strictly Ballroom, The Sapphires. Okay, interesting. But yeah, so like there's like 20 movies before. Okay, you know what? We're not here to talk about Google.
Not here to just list off a bunch of movies that we may or may not discuss in future episodes.
I mean, look, we're definitely not going to talk about Lantana.
Oh, okay, fine.
Like honestly, like sorry for like taking the audience sort of out of this experience. Just Google Lantana. It looks really bad.
Lantana.
Oh, actually, sorry, I take it back. Apparently, it's pretty good. Oh, it's got Jeffrey Rush. Okay, you know what? I'm sorry for all of the
So all
Lantana
those
fans out
Lantana.
there. Yep. Oh.
Oh. No,
Okay.
yeah, I definitely feel like that should be a bit higher. On
Yeah. I mean, it should. I don't know. It's a really good film, and I want more people to see it. That is all. Thank
That
you
is
for
all?
Thank you for coming to my TED talk.
No problem.
Yeah. So do you have anything else to say
Everyone
about
pat
the-
yourselves on the back.
What was that, sorry?
I just said everyone pat yourselves on the back. You're saving
Oh,
the
yeah.
world. TED talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Do you have anything else to say about the movie? 'Cause
I mean,
it's hard to really talk about anything else without going into the
without
ending,
going
which,
into
again,
the
I don't wanna
ending,
do.
which is like I feel like listeners and people that haven't seen the movie really shouldn't have spoiled to them.
Spoiled, yeah.
I don't know. I like to also mention one of my other like scenes that stuck out to me specifically, and it's like when after the kangaroo hunting, they kind of completely destroy this spot.
Yeah, they
And,
just
like-
pull up to some guy's house and like we don't know who it is. They go, hey, and they start throwing beer like cans onto his porch, and he comes out and goes, yeah, idiots, and he just goes back inside.
It feels like he
And
doesn't even care that much though, even though he's angry. It's like, oh,
Yeah, like they
fuck.
bust holes in his walls, like fighting and like getting onto the ground, and they start, and then the doctor jumps in, and it's really weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the specific moment though is when like the doc basically goes on this like philosophical like these philosophical ramblings to John when he's like unconscious from the alcohol.
Yeah. So like, because
Well, I forgot what he talks about because I remember it was quite.
I think he's reciting the Socratic dialogues.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Which
pretty
is
sure
interesting
that's
because there's one like scene because when John basically leaves to try get away from Diaba, one of the because he discards one of his suitcases that he got back, and there's a shot that clearly shows because he got rid of the suitcase with all the books, and one of the books was just Plato. So I feel like
Yeah.
that was an interesting callback to that scene. But
Yeah.
that's a bit of a
because wait, was I should know this. Was Socrates the one that taught Plato, or was Plato the one that taught Socrates?
I always get this backwards because there's Aristotle as well. That's the big three. I think so,
Okay.
no. I think Aristotle, Plato, and then Socrates. But I mean, to all listeners out
Yeah,
there,
just Google look it up real quick, because I feel like we should know this, because now you mention it, that seems really important to the themes of the movie.
Yeah. No. So, one sec.
All right. Yeah, because if you notice as well, the Doctor calls him Socrates a few times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? Yeah, like 2 or 3 times.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it slightly backwards. So it was Socrates, then Plato, and then Aristotle.
Okay. Yeah. So the Doctor is everyone's pissed. The other 2 guys are fighting in the background. The Doctor is reciting the Socratic dialogues. I'm pretty sure it is to John, and as he's doing this, John just falls over. He passes out. It's kind of comedic the way he falls over. It's just very out of nowhere, and it's not played for laughs, I think, because actually the scene just keeps going.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny, but yeah. And then you mentioned he throws out the books. Like, I think that part just shows that like he's no longer who he used to be. Like, he doesn't care about his education. He doesn't place himself above anybody else anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like, obviously, like, when he throws away the books, it's because he's trying to, like, empty his load because he's going to be walking through the desert, so he doesn't want to carry 2 suitcases and a gun.
But he's also emptying his mental load.
Yeah, it's deep.
Damn.
And also, he's, like, figuratively, like, throwing away, like, the tools of oppression that the government uses to keep him down.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, that one's pretty obvious.
Because, the whole reason why he's in that bond is to pay off his, like, education, wasn't it?
Well, okay, so I'm not 100% sure how it works, because I've only actually ever heard about this from this movie.
Yeah.
But
Same.
I think when you started the job with the government as a teacher, they gave you $1,000 to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
And then they relocated you anywhere you wanted, and then after a certain time, you had to pay that money back to release from your bond. Okay.
Okay.
So honestly, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't want to talk about this bit.
1970s Australia.
Education system
works, yeah.
I mean, like, I love that even the cop doesn't, the head sheriff of the town of the Yabba doesn't know. Like, John says to him, "You don't know how your country finds educationers in the outback, do you?" And he goes, "Nah." No, honestly, they call what's his name, Jock.
Jock, yeah.
Yeah, he's the best character in the movie, man. He's just such a nice guy,
Mm.
Even when John's wandering around town drunk with a gun, like no money left, he gives him a beer and a ciggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice guy. Nice guy.
But he's the one who introduced him to the dollar stake and the gambling.
Yeah, the dollar stake and the gambling.
The dollar stake is where it all started.
It is where it actually is, like, because if you didn't have the stake, you wouldn't have met the doctor.
No.
And if you didn't have the stake, you wouldn't have hung around because like the doctor's like prodding kind of encouraged him to go into the gambling room.
Yeah.
Bro, so it actually does all go back to the stake.
See, that's the moral of them.
It's the real evil is eating meat because the director's a vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
Shit.
Okay. We've uncovered this.
I was joking, but maybe.
Because he still like defends his use of the footage, so that's definitely. Oh man.
Damn, that's crazy. So much subtext.
Okay, well, here on the Down Under podcast, I think we've uncovered
we found the truth on this nearly 50-year-old movie.
Yeah, and now I revoke all my positive reception because I'm not going to deal with vegetarian propaganda.
You're gonna say you're a meat eater, but then you knew it sounded like sus. Is that what you're gonna say?
Well, I would have said it if I the kangaroo scene was a bit. I feel bad.
Yeah, man. Like, one last thing. Like, do you have anything else to say?
No. I feel like I've delved in my thoughts. I think it was a very, very good movie.
Yeah. How gross did the kangaroo that he was eating look when he woke up?
Oh yeah, like kangaroo meat.
That meat there, the mince, and then he washed it down with beer. Like, this was so disgusting.
God, and like the beer was all warm. I think it's like just the thought of eating meat and warm beer, drinking warm beer.
Like. The film just has such a layer of griminess over everything, but it feels so real.
Yeah, because I feel like it was.
Everyone's just so dirty. But
I love that atmosphere. I quite like that atmosphere it created. Like not to sound like a meme, but I kind of got like a hint of David Lynch vibes in terms of like the surrealist like.
Well, I mean, I think it was before David Lynch.
It is before, yeah. So,
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think Lynch was he started late 70s with Eraserhead. Yeah, because I mean, Lynch is like the one surreal filmmaker that I know. So
yeah, fair enough. Gonna end that off on a quote when they say why is he talking to that girl drinking beer, and then the doctor and then Tim Hines says school teacher, and then they go oh. I love that bit made me crack up.
Yeah, no, plenty of moments, plenty of crack up moments and stitch up moments and fuck moments.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it. That's gonna be the new box on the 50th anniversary release.
Yeah, we'll include our this commentary over the film.
100%. All right, so
okay,
so we recommend the film. It's really good. I mean, it is better than Wolf Creek, but I'd rather watch Wolf Creek if I'm gonna be honest, because I just love that movie.
I mean, if I had a bunch of popcorn and like a beer, I'd watch Wolf Creek. If I
Yeah.
wanted to like get a bit
Engaged with a piece of
yeah.
art.
with a pizza, it's art,
Yeah.
Australian.
Well, no, because Wolf Creek, like, I'm gonna be real, it's not a very good movie. I just love it.
I don't know. I enjoyed it. Like I mean,
Yeah, no, it's enjoyable experience, but like, I don't know. Anyway, that's last week.
it is
you
kind
know.
of a popcorn film. All right.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, do you want to introduce this week's album?
All right. Sure thing. All the way from the opposite end of the country in Perth, Tay Impala is the music project of multi-instrumentalist Kevin Parker that has made massive waves around the world for quite some time now. With his unique and creative blend of sugary pop and vivid psychedelia, cementing him as one of the most prominent voices in the sort of indie music scene currently, working with the likes of MGMT, Mark Ronson, and even Travis Scott. Today we'll be discussing his second full-length album, Lonerism, released back in 2012, which is honestly a personal favorite of mine, and one that I feel like that has held a significant role in my personal progression as an artist and musician and, yada, yada, yada. So, and quite looking forward to discussing this album because I feel like this is this album specifically, released in 2012. It was his second album, so I feel it had an interesting progression in discography because he sort of blew up onto the scene with this album, and even more so with his later album Currents, which have a lot of hit songs that a lot of people would know, like Less I Know the Better.
You know what's crazy? Sorry, just interrupting you here.
No, yeah.
Like, because you put me onto Lonerism back in like 2015.
Yeah.
And I've listened to this album a million times, but like I've only listened to In the Speaker once, his first album, and I haven't heard a single song of Currents.
Really?
I can't tell you a single song of Currents, even that's his big album.
Damn. Yeah, because
I've just never felt any reason to listen to it.
if you go on like Spotify, I think like pretty much all of the top tracks.
I feel like My
of
Mischief would be a
Currents.
top 5 as well.
Oh yeah.
That's the one that everyone knows, like in my experience.
Well, yeah, you have. Well, Less I Know the Better has 300 million listens.
Oh,
which
that's
is
crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, I just haven't
But,
listened to it.
No, yeah,
I should
because
really go and start.
it's an interesting transition because In a Speaker is
Well,
his first
sorry, I was
album.
gonna say, sorry. Well, it's kind of crazy that My Mischief isn't even top 5. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's because I mean it was his biggest song before Currents, I guess. So.
Yeah, but like even feels like we only go backwards.
Oh
is,
no,
like,
it feels like that's a bigger song.
yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
No, it's alright. Because In a Speaker, we saw him kind of taking a lot of, staying really grounded with his influences, like kind of wearing them on his sleeves. You know, you can hear quite a bit of this like 60s, 70s psychedelic rock, really grounded with guitars and drums and that sort of sonic palette. Whereas I feel like Lonerism sort of branch out into using a lot more synthesizers and kind of creating a much more colorful and very sort of explorative feel to it, because he combines the sounds of In a Speaker with the guitars, but also using a lot more synthesizers and kind of changing up his style. Because when he was sort of writing this album, he just kind of had this dawning on him where he just really liked pop music, and and it makes a lot of sense like now in context because he said this back when Lonerism was coming out. But apparently he's written like a lot of songs that he wanted to give to Kylie Minogue, for instance, because it's like he's just fallen in love with this idea of
Kylie Minogue, who hasn't?
who hasn't, classic Aussie darling.
Apparently, Kylie Minogue, sorry, completely off topic, was my first celebrity crush. Like, like when I was like 3, I always got excited when she was on TV.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. So I can relate. I can relate to Kevin Parker on this one.
Oh.
To Mr. Impala on this one.
And
sorry, go on.
No. And it's interesting now because in Currents, his album after this that succeeded it, it completely just dives into the pop territory where I feel like Lonerism is the very interesting transitional point for him.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's enough of me rambling about its place in his discography. So, I mean, because I have introduced it to you a while back in like 2015.
Yeah.
I first listened to it maybe around 2014, 2013, where you know, like one of my older sister's friends just played like I think he played Ender's Toy, which is the second track of this album.
Yep.
And I was just like, what is this? And like
Yep.
at first I'm like, this is crazy. I don't really know how I feel about this. And then I just gradually kind of gravitated towards it. And I feel like it's definitely one of those albums that signified a change in my general sort of, well, kind of like it started this a shift in my
Your
music
artistic
taste.
taste. Yeah.
Yeah, like, cause you know, I mean, I still have this Nirvana flag up in my room, but you know, pre this album, I was mainly just kind of into this sort of like 90s grunge, alt rock.
Do you still have? No, you don't have the Metallica poster anymore.
No, I don't. Yeah, I used to have a poster of all Metallica's like albums.
You had
and
2
stuff.
Metallica posters.
Oh, I did. I had Master of Puppets poster as well.
No,
So-
we had the one where they were all performing on stage.
Oh yeah, and that one.
You had 3
I had
Metallica
3.
posters. Oh, that's shameful. Nah, it's actually
no.
not.
Nah, Metallica. I could still listen to some Metallica albums, and be like, this bangs.
Yeah, I'm just being mean.
No, but yeah, it's interesting. It's just an interesting album for me personally, which I might just delve into a bit later. But because
Yeah.
it's enough for me. Well, how do you feel about this album? You know, when you first listened to it and revisiting now for this podcast.
I don't know, cause like when I first listened to it back then, what were we? We were in year 9. Like I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it then. I for me, it wasn't like this big epiphany moment. You know, I didn't have
No.
that until I listened to to listen to Death Grips. But like, yeah. So I enjoyed it back then. I'm enjoying it now. Like anything that's really changed for me since then, cause I didn't really listen to it for like a few years. Really thinking about it.
Yeah,
Other than
yeah.
a few songs here and there. I still enjoy the album as a whole about the same. There's just like my favorite songs have shifted around a little bit.
Oh, okay. Like,
So, like okay, so like Mind Mischief and and Elephant, like are probably like 2 of the least like psychedelic songs thinking about it on the album. And they used to be my favorite, but now they're like now. I don't know.
I don't know. Mind Mischief, like, I mean, Elephant's definitely. I feel like the sort of.
It
I mean,
stands out.
it stands out for sure because I feel it breaks up the flow a bit, whether in a positive or negative way. I don't know, but it's definitely it sticks out quite a bit. But I feel
Yeah.
Mind Mischief is quite a psychedelic song in terms of like, especially when it gets into that sort of bridge and you got all the.
Yeah, no, ignore me. I missed.
No, I get you. Yeah.
Okay, well, more so saying just like those used to be like the ones that I play the most because I think they're probably like the most like self-contained, accessible songs in the album.
Yeah, I'd say that.
When like now I probably place them more towards the bottom because like I don't know. I think Elephant just like I just don't enjoy the sound of it as much as I used to, and then Mind Mischief. Maybe just for me, maybe just because it's overplayed a bit, but yeah, I know those songs kind of like wasn't feeling as much as I used to.
Okay.
Music to Walk Home By was really nice. Ender's Toys you mentioned before was really nice. Hold up, I'm just gonna look at the track list again.
Yeah.
You keep talking.
I'll keep talking. Yeah.
Okay, wait, no, that's alright. I got it back up. It feels like we're gonna go backwards. That's like a really big one. That one comes in nice.
Classic.
Yeah, I think those were like my 3 favorites. So
Okay.
Ender's Toy, music to Walk Home By. Feels like we're gonna go backwards. Also, how long is Keep On Lying? Like it feels really long.
It's the
Hold on.
it actually is
It's-
no, it's not the longest track on the album.
It's
It's
550. Okay.
yeah, so 550.
Wait,
I think Apocalypse Dreams is the longest song.
Okay, yeah, but like Apocalypse Dreams is like a lot more high energy compared to Keep On Lying.
I feel like the reason why you probably perceive Keep On Lying as like being really long is because it has that sort of this long sort of section where it's kind of building this atmosphere of like you know he's playing the recordings of people talking and he's just soloing over it.
Yeah.
I think Keep On Lying is actually one of my favorite tracks because I
Yeah,
feel
no, like for Keep On Lying because it just stuck out to me because the other day I was driving home and I was like
is this gonna
listening to it.
answer? Like
Yeah, no, it wasn't even that. No, I was listening to it and like the intro, like the first part of the song goes on for a really long time.
yeah.
And I kind of just dozed out, not dozed out because I was driving, but like I kind of like stopped paying attention to it for a while, and then like 3 minutes later it was still going. And I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy." Because like the song, I'm not gonna say the song's boring or like bad because like it's not. It's just I don't know. I feel like that's the only song on the album like actually gave me like that. I don't know, psychedelic feeling. Like I kind of just like zoned out for a minute.
It's one of those songs that you can zone out to because I think that's also partially due that the structure is quite odd because the whole song, roughly 6 minutes, it follows this kind of long chord progression that doesn't change.
Yeah.
All these other songs I feel like are quite progressive in some ways, especially a track like Apocalypse Dreams, where it weaves in these different
Where that
sections.
one, the long length doesn't really like.
Nothing
feel.
that is. Oh no. Sorry,
Wait, you said Apocalypse Dreams was a long one, yeah?
Yeah.
So like that doesn't feel as long because it's got so much going on.
It's got these different sections and all these different change ups. And because I feel like that the static nature of the Keep On Lying is quite great, especially like towards the end where like the solo just kind of gets to its peak. It's like
And when I was driving home, that finished right when I pulled up to my driveway. That was nice.
Yeah.
That was good timing. I was happy with that. I love when that happens.
It's just like it's interesting because I mean you say you haven't listened to this album in a while since you first heard it like all these years ago.
Okay, so it was on the rotation, I feel, through like 2016 and stuff. But like since then I haven't really played it all that much except for like a few songs here and there, you know.
Yeah, I think this is the same for me though, because I mean even though I've kind of discussed how I feel like this album is quite important to me. I last time I listened to this album in full before kind of preparing for this podcast is probably like 2016 actually.
Yeah.
So I mean it's even though I love this album quite a bit, and looking at this track list I'm like, wow, there isn't a single song that I feel is like could be taken out or something could be changed, because I feel like it's just such a tight album. It's all the tracks I feel I just have their own role and place, and it's quite great.
Yeah.
And just re-listening to it, it's kind of like solidified it. I'm like, wow, that's just because.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't want to go back to things that you really enjoy when you were younger because they're not as good as you remember.
Yeah, like for example, I mean one example I'd probably give is like White Stripes.
Yeah.
I mean, like
that's what I was thinking about as well.
Yeah, because I feel like we both had that phase where we're listening to them quite a bit. And we're like, oh, you listen to this track, and like, oh yeah, that track. And I mean, I could still enjoy their music, but it's just not something that I have in my rotation because
like I haven't gone back to any of their albums except for Elephant in the last year or last 2 years or so, and like even Elephant, like because that used to be my favorite one of theirs, like I think it's the most popular one, so whatever.
Yeah.
But like even that, like I didn't really enjoy as much as I used to, so I was kind of expecting more of like that kind of reaction to Lonerism, but no, like Lonerism really does hold up.
No, yeah, I was interested. I mean, it's quite interesting because I kind of anticipated this feeling of like, oh, this album isn't going to be as good as I remember it being. But no, I think it still holds up. And this album's like, what, now 7 years old, which is like, wow. But anyways, I feel, even though I said like, I think every track is like, I feel Elephant kind of does break up the flow in a bit of a, way that I don't completely vibe with. I think
Elephant is just dirty to me because how it's the song that's on the YouTube ads for YouTube Red. And like I have it ingrained in my brain now just because of that ad. And that's the only thing I can think of when I hear the song is like this like
it's
the
just
very
the YouTube Red dun.
Yeah, and like cause at my gym like they just play the music off of a YouTube playlist, so like every 10 minutes you'll just hear dun 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 before like the lead behind the camera like
seconds,
like skips it straight away. It's like that's the only thing I can really think of about the song when I hear it is just dun dun dun, and that's it, and then the song skips it.
And the other thing I like that the song takes me back to is like because we went to EB Expo one time and they had Rocksmith 2014, I think it was 2013, I can't remember.
The EB Games Expo.
Yeah, the EB Games Expo, which is like a video game convention that they held here in Sydney for a few years until they were like, we'll move it to the Gold Coast, and they did it. It didn't sell anything, and they're like, okay, we're not doing that again.
Bring it back. They should bring it back.
They'd bring it back.
I'd go.
And I had Rocksmith 2014, and the guy gave me the guitar. I was like, what song do you want to play? And I'm like, oh, there's Elephant. I like that song.
I like that.
And
Fair enough.
Yeah, and what else about this? I also feel like that my favorite track in this album is probably one that I feel is quite overlooked by many.
Wait,
which is
wait, repeat that bit in a sec, because you're getting like little like background noise, like are you touching your microphone or something?
Oh, I think my cable's just wiggling.
Yeah, because I can hear it. It's been
okay.
Noise for like last few seconds. Just repeat what you were just saying. Sorry.
Oh shit, sorry. I feel like probably my favorite track from the album is one that's a bit overlooked. I don't really see too many people talking about it, but it's the second last track, which is, I'm going to say the full title once. Nothing that has happened so far has been anything we could control. Oh no, never mind. That's the longest track, not Apocalypse Dreams.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that's the full title because like I never bothered reading the whole thing.
Well,
I'm not even
he
joking,
does,
'cause, like,
that's the first line of the song, though. It's
yeah, but like by that point I kind of zoned out, you know.
it's just because it's.
Like I'll be real, I don't remember the last 3 tracks because by that point I'm kind of just like not lost interest, but like just you know.
Well, yeah, it's a 50-minute long album, you know. Well, I think once an album passes like 40-45 minutes, you really just gotta grab you to remember the last few tracks. But I mean, I think like we said, last 3 tracks. I mean, She Just Won't Believe Me is just kind of like an interlude track.
Yeah.
And Sun's Coming Up is just like a piano ballad with a spacey outro. But nothing has happened so far. It's just like, oh man, I think that's probably the track that really got me thinking like, whoa, this is something else. It really makes you think. It's just as well, I feel like it has one of those drum grooves that when I learnt the drums to that when I was 15, I'm like, whoa, you can do that with your feet. you can play like this way, and you can just kind of develop this groove in this particular way in a song. I'm not going to delve into like random like sort of specific musician stuff, but I don't know. It's got an interesting drum groove, I'll say that. And the way that the track progresses, and I don't know, it's just like it just gives this feeling of like, I mean, to harken back to the cover. I mean, I said this about Since I Left You, but I think this cover also is applicable too, where it's like the cover just sounds so much like the music, where it's quite a colorful, like vibrant image with the sort of vintage film look.
Yeah.
The colors quite stand out, but it's got this interesting contrast, like, you know, being behind this gate and seeing everyone else enjoying themselves, and you're in the back, kind of, you know, looking through that way, and you know it's quite on the nose with its title as well, Lonerism.
Yeah.
But I feel like that
And
track in
some
particular.
of the song titles, like, you know, particularly Why
Would They Talk to Me? Yeah, it's like that track. Why Won't They Talk to Me? Nothing that's happened so far. It just conveys this feeling of like colorful melancholy or like colorful introspection, where it's just like you're thinking within yourself, damn. Why am I not just on the other side of the fence there? Like,
fair enough.
You know, but it's like
he is on the other side of the fence because now songs with A$AP Rocky and Travis Scott. So now he's one of the cool kids.
It's one of the cool kids working with like Rihanna and stuff. You know. Yeah. Making waves in the pop music scene.
In the pop music
scene.
Nah.
And like the flow of the album as well. I mean, slightly behind. I don't want to piss on Elephant so much because I mean I think it's a great track, but more so a standalone. Yeah. But yeah.
Like, it's a very good YouTube Red advertisement song.
YouTube advertisement core, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, just a little anecdote. So the other day I was driving home from work, and I was playing. Oh, it was the same day that Keep On Lying.
Oh yeah, I was playing when you.
Yeah, Keep On Lying. Yeah. I was giving a guy a lift home from work, and I put the album on pretty much like as soon as we got in the car, and then I was up to Mind Mischief by the time we got to his house, and he goes, "Oh, is this Tame Impala?" And I go, "Oh yeah," and he goes, "Oh, me and the boys used to sesh to this all the time." And I think that's a good way of summing up the album.
Yeah, it's a good album to sesh to. I feel like it's probably a better album to sesh to on your own.
I wouldn't know.
I don't know either. We here at the Down Under podcast do not condone seshing, with or on your own.
Yeah.
You know, stay away. Stay away from drugs, kids.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be like the fellas in the ABBA.
In the ABBA, yeah. Just shooting kangaroos, getting into destroying bars and having fights.
And taking turns sleeping with Jeanette. Yeah.
And to link the two, do you feel like there is... I wrote down this question even without putting much thought into it because I think it's quite silly. But do you feel like there's any sort of parallel between
that's a great way to introduce your question. I just gotta say, like, you know, that's... Sorry, go on.
Do you feel like there's any sort of, like, similarity or parallel between how these. I mean, I don't know if you've like really paid attention to the lyrics that much in the album. I mean, I myself personally, when I'm not the biggest reader into lyrics. Like for example, I feel like the major appeal of the album to me is just how well produced. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that, but like it's such a well produced album. The drum sounds on this album, I feel like up there in my probably top 10 best sounding drums. Like as in just the crispy snare. I mean, I won't delve into that, but I mean it's just such a well produced album, and like, you know, all the synth sounds, like, you know, effects and guitars, all just like mwah, you know.
And your question.
But anyway, my question. Do you feel like there's any sort of parallel between how the theme of like isolation and loneliness are portrayed in this album and with the film?
It's a fair question, but no. And I think you know that no, just because it's like a very different kind of loneliness.
Yes, yes. And I think that's an interesting point to make, that it's quite different.
Yeah, but like I feel like it did actually work out pretty nicely. They are both films about they are both pieces of art about, you know, being different.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that works but like it's kind of a different kind of thing where John Grant in Wake and Fright doesn't want to be part of the group. He wants to be separate.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the version of himself that Kevin Parker portrays on the album wants to be part of the group, like at least on a few songs he points out. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's only a few songs where lyrics really stick out, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Rest of it's kind of just like a vibe.
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, I feel like lyrically some of the tracks that stick out to me personally, like Why Won't They Talk to Me, Nothing That's Happened So Far, and like Feels Like We Only Go Backwards. But it's interesting thing of like, I don't feel like every track, and Be Above It as well.
Yeah, but
fits into the
not every song
narrative.
fits into that theme. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of it's also got to do with just like love and affection and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just being an emotional boy.
Emotional boy. Okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, do you have anything else to say about the album? Because I don't.
You don't?
Not really. But
Really?
you know, like, I'm not really much. What am I trying to say?
Really.
I don't have the emotional attachment to the album that you do. I do really enjoy it. But yeah, like it's a very solid album. You're very quiet right now.
Am I? Oh, I hope so.
Not you good now. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, do you have anything else to say about the album?
I mean, I'll just say that it still holds up, which is good.
Yeah.
Especially since it's one of those albums that I feel like has meant quite a bit to my personal,
To your development, yeah.
to my development, yeah, as being like a little young teenager boy.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, because you know, with my own music as well, I feel like I derive a lot of influence and inspiration from what this album tries to do in terms of crafting all these unique sounds in a manner that really conveys this feeling that you want to portray, which I feel like Kevin Parker succeeds in here with you know, just exploring social isolation, self-doubt, and all these different sort of themes that I feel like are quite prevalent when you're a young teenager boy. So that's probably why it resonated with me. It can still resonate, you know. And I feel like he portrays in this interesting light, how like with the cover, and you know,
and with the title,
and with the title,
some titles,
and
yeah,
and yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's a great album.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna give it a rating because I gotta be real. I'm not really the biggest fan of giving stuff ratings.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just
say, go listen to it. You probably have.
Go listen to it. I mean, you probably heard half the albums on you know, either just on Spotify playlists or YouTube music
on the
advertisements.
YouTube Red, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they don't call it YouTube Red anymore, don't they? They call it like
it's YouTube Premium.
They probably changed it because like
I think it's YouTube Premium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube Red didn't sound the best. Okay.
No, it didn't. Okay, so that's it for Lonerism. Alright, so that's the content for this week's episode. Next week we'll be covering the 1970s Australian cult classic sex comedy Alvin Purple, starring a man who every single one in the world wants to sleep with.
Hello?
Okay, yeah, that was open for you to introduce your album.
Oh, sorry.
No, I like that little, like, you know, that little pause, how neither of us said anything, because it's not a very good movie, just heads up.
And
sorry. It's not a good movie, but it's an important movie in Australian film history.
There you go. It's
That's right.
important.
There
Just
you go.
because it's important doesn't mean it has to be that great.
That's right.
And we'll be covering an all-time Australian classic, Midnight Oil's Diesel and Dust,
Yep.
and an album that both of us aren't most familiar with.
What
other than
songs?
for me.
What big hits are on that one? Because we all know the big hits.
Beds Are Burning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dun.
Darn. It's got a few other singles, but I'm not too familiar with them. So it'll be interesting. Both of us will be delving into that album
For the first time, yeah.
for the first time. Yeah. So yeah, that's the album we're gonna be
That's
doing
too
next
easy.
week.
Alright, we'll tune in, or maybe next week because we'll be uploading these all at once probably. But I don't know. Give it a gaze.
Give it a gaze, fellas.
And-
give
and
give
on a high
Lonerism a
note.
gaze. Give Wake and Fright a gaze.
Don't give Album Purple a gaze. Like we're not spoil it because it's not very good and no one should watch it. Alright. Thank you for listening.
Thank you guys.
Have a good one, mates.
Have a good one, mates.